how important is identity as a company?
As a company, it's massive. Even just the tiniest little increase in sales when you scale something up can be thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you want something to be clean and bold, and to communicate your message clearly is really important. Like if you can't read something, you're not really communicating it well. So like I'm all about contrast, simplicity, bold lines. I mean, some people are more illustrative, some people are more detailed, but I kind of tend to err on the more simple side of design, But yeah, it and a lot of identity is what you make it. So it's like the product has to be good too, but how you communicate it to people has to be effective as well. And so if you're not communicating to people, you're missing out immensely.
Great businesses don't spring up out of nowhere. It takes grit, perseverance, personal growth, and failure to reach the status of an iconic local business. Welcome to Season 7 of the Building Bellingham podcast, where we're bringing you 8 more stories of local leaders and how they are building Bellingham. Brad Lockhart, welcome to the studio.
Thank you,
This
Leo.
is the season finale.
Wow.
And like you said, what did you say? You said something about this could be a murder mystery. We don't know what's going to happen since it's the last episode.
Cliffhanger,
Yeah.
You want people to come back for the next season, so like somebody's got to get stabbed in the snow or whatever.
There's no snow, but up at Baker,
Yeah,
maybe.
could be.
Crappy snow up at Baker.
There's a
right
little
now.
bit of snow.
Yeah, just a little dribble. Well, thank you for joining us. And a lot of people in town, you've been here most of your life.
Yep.
Yep.
Born in San Diego, but moved here when I was like 2.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, put in the time early. Yeah. So you've been here the majority of your life.
Yes.
And you've been a part of this community. And for those that don't know, and I don't want to just only focus on the Bellingham Flag, but it is a huge thing that you've done that has become a staple in our town. But there's so much more that you do and you have done. And so I really want to dive into all of that, right? So there's the Bellingham Flag, there's all sorts of things. Tell us about, like, we don't have to start at 2, maybe like 2.5.
Sure.
And we can no, but like as you launched your own business, and your business is this platform for other businesses, it's a very interesting relationship, right?
Right.
Tell me a little bit more about this, like, progression of got to where you are now.
Yeah, it took a while, like we were saying earlier before camera, some people take the long road in life. And so I didn't graduate college till I was 26, but yeah, I grew up in Whatcom County, always a creative kid, always good at art and theater and music. And I think I applied to Western on a theater major, even though I could not imagine my life as a theater major now, but just got in the door, to higher education. But I was really into music. So I was playing in bands starting at age like 14, 15. And that's kind of how I first got involved in like the creative community of Bellingham.
What kind of music, by the way?
My first band was a punk band. It's once you can play 3 chords, you can write a song, and that was it.
Are you like a nasally singer too, or are you like on the other side?
I was when I was 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sounded like the fake British accent, like snotty punk voice.
Punk is in my top 3 of genres.
I eventually found my own voice. It took a little while, but it definitely took off pretty quick, though, music. Like my senior year of high school, I started a band called Black Eyes and Neckties, and that kind of became the focal point of my life for 7 years, because that band toured the U.S. and Europe and played festivals and put out records, and we were on this very slow, steady incline. Like we never got famous, but then we never had a terrible catastrophe. So kind of rode that for a long time. But design kind of came about by accident, mostly out of necessity for telling people about the music.
Right.
Like even in high school, we would book a Grange Hall, and we had to get as many high school kids to come to the show as possible. So I got Photoshop and started making posters, and then eventually we had to make merch for the band and album art. And so I was kind of doing that kind of visual language, visual identity, communication work before I even knew what it was, purely out of necessity. Went to college, flunked out of college, focused on the band for years.
Me too.
Really?
Yeah.
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 The long road, dude.
The long road.
Yeah. It's like, again, you can't get in your own way about that sort of thing. You just got to move on. And went back to Whatcom, and then I think when I went to Whatcom, I started kind of finding out about like digital design and like 2D design, illustration, things like that. Started getting like A's, know. And I'm like, wow, I'm actually good at school.
I found a lane.
Yeah, exactly. So then I think when I was around 22, the band was kind of coming to a close, and that's when I realized I could kind of get back into Western, get a degree in graphic design. And so that's what I did. And then I got a job like 1 week after graduating.
What was the job?
I was actually working for a liquor distributor in Seattle called Young's Market Company, and they were in the Columbia Distributing building. So they kind of worked hand in hand with Columbia.
Are they still around?
Columbia Distributing or Young's
No,
Market?
the Youngs.
No, I don't think
Okay.
so. I think they got bought a few years after I left, but it was basically just designing like point of sale marketing items for like bars and restaurants, just like Fireball Wednesday or
Yeah.
whatever. And all I did was just like put the Fireball bottle on, like put the logo of the bar, type the price, and so it was not very creative, but it broke me out of my like kind of cozy shell because
Right.
like having grown up here and I'm already in my mid to late 20s and I have all these friends, but I'm like, but if I actually want to like do the next thing, I do need to kind of get out of my comfort zone. So moved to Seattle, did that job for a few years, came back up here, got recruited to work at a tech company up here at the time, Logos, which is still around. They're not as present downtown as they used to be. They sold their building to Place and
Right.
they rent out a few buildings. But at the time, this was like 2017, they were taking off.
They were ripping. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When I got hired, there was like 500 employees. We all worked downtown. I was on a creative team of like 30 people, like 30 other designers. And like you rarely see that in-house anywhere, you know, because at that point you could just hire a whole agency. But they decided to keep it all in-house. And that was a really great learning experience. Learned from a lot of people. And that was when I designed the flag actually while I was working there. And so the CEO was a big advocate for it and he helped me kind of like promote it. And that's when I started learning animation. So they had a team of animators there and I always wanted to do animation, but I didn't have any experience. All I've been doing was like bar logos, band logos, posters and stuff. But I just kind of like weaseled my way onto their animation team.
Take me.
Well, I like lied a couple times.
Yeah.
Like the tech guys would come around and they'd be like, "What are you doing here?" And I'd like kind of moved closer to them. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm working with them now."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Okay, we'll connect you to the server." And then I would just like look over people's shoulders and be like, "Hey, do you want help with that?" And they'd be like, "Okay," or whatever. And
sure,
then
yeah.
I started getting invited to meetings. And then because I had a contract, 9-month contract as a production designer, which is like entry level graphic designer. But by the end, they were like, "Brad, I think he's on the motion team
I think
now."
he's here. He's here.
Pretty much. So then I did that for 2 or 3 years. But then around the time that the flag got adopted, so I designed it in 2015, promoted it for a year and a half, something like that. The city officially adopted it in 2017. And that was when like most people in Bellingham knew who I was at that point. Like it was in the paper, my name and the flag and like doing digital art, So I just became really in demand. So I was able to kind of quit my full-time job and focus on my own freelance, sole proprietorship kind of, I call it a studio, but it's really just me.
Yeah.
But sometimes I subcontract, and last summer I had an intern. That was fun. But yeah, that was the long story to how I got to be self-employed professional creative person.
What was that like going from, I mean, it's steady, like you have steady work, but you're not necessarily in control of your schedule. You have all these like to-do list items that get put on your desk and this is what needs to come next, to, hey, you need to figure out what to do with your time. And there's these in the business things that move the business forward on a day-to-day basis. And there's on the business things, like how did you kind of adapt to those two, like from one world to another?
It's hard. It was slow. And I mean, I've been freelancing since 2013, sort of like semi-professionally, right? Yeah. So I had the business there, but it would be like if someone gave me $100 for a poster, I just wanted to make sure I paid taxes on it in case I ever got audited or whatever. So, commissioned work and like direct with client relationships or something I'd already been doing. And I'd done some like sizable projects in that time, but it was never like, okay, you have no other income but this, and you have no one supporting you, like you're on your own. So it's scary. And I thought, honestly, it was going to be temporary. I thought maybe I was going to do it for like 6 months and then like just go in-house work for somebody else, you know, but it's been like 9 years now, so that's been a wild ride. But a lot of opportunities have come and gone since then in terms of like teaching, so like that wasn't something I set out to do, but was asked to do by the university.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, it was great. The guy that flunked out is now teaching.
Yep.
I tell my students that, and I'm like, you guys can take your time, it's not a race, right? Like, you maybe did bad here, but maybe you're going to do good later.
Yep.
So I think just seeing, and I'm pretty open about that stuff, like the visibility of that is important for them, but also just the work, like if you do something in your field that is remarkable to some people, then they want you to try and teach other people how to do that and be a direct example of what you're learning, and so that like every day in class, I'm pretty much working on real stuff. And I'm like, here's a logo I'm making. Like, here's the bid. Like, this is how much I'm charging. Like, I'm super transparent.
Just all of the components of
yeah.
it.
And I'm like, this is how much time it took. You guys think about how much time it's going to take and what's your time worth and that sort of thing. So it is kind of like a little entrepreneurial, a little like professional practices mixed in with the actual like technical skill.
Which is so cool. Coop actually, when you were still at Western, was it? When you had me come talk to the real estate class, and then there was a question of like, so when did you graduate? And I said, yeah, I didn't graduate, and it got really quiet. And I'm like, look, guys, I'm not saying do what I did.
Yeah.
Also, you can take your time,
right?
And also you can do it in 4 years, and also you can there's just not one right way to do it.
No,
it was just this funny awkward silence when they had,
when did you graduate?
Hasn't
happened yet. Maybe
happened.
Someday.
Hey, professor, yeah.
You got an extra seat in here?
I am really curious about because I've got some friends that are in the digital design space, and I'm always so curious because I know it's like what I've learned is that it's so some things are so time heavy. And I hear like, I'm always curious, how did you bid this out? How do you know if you're learning something new as a part of a bunch of stuff you already know how to do?
Yep.
How do you bid that? Because it's going to take you more time for that thing. I've always been so curious. Like at this point, very closely what something's going to take, give or take X amount of hours, roughly.
Yeah.
As you're teaching this to kids, young adults, students. How do you teach them about that? Because a lot of it's a gut check and probably mistakes where you're like, whoops, I underbid that one. Or, whoa,
definitely.
Didn't get the job, I overbid that one, or whatever it was,
Well, I mean, school is kind of the perfect opportunity to figure out how long it takes because you're not getting paid, but you're getting a grade. Yeah. So I like to tell them, like, think about, and even like a lot of us use the software called Procreate. It's like a digital illustration thing for a tablet, and it actually records your time for you. So a lot of times I'll go back and look, and I'll be like, oh man, I busted it out in like 45 minutes. Wow, like that $500 is pretty good now, you know. So like there's tools for it, but what's great about when you're in school is that you don't have to worry about your hourly rate. You just have to worry about making something you're proud of, and so you can keep track of that time and then kind of try and translate that to the real world. But a lot of my students are also getting hired by businesses while they're working, and they ask me like, what do I charge? And I'm like, well, how long did it take you? And like 40 hours, and I'm like, that's not gonna be worth that much, you know. Like I have to tell them the truth, like, gang, you're going to need to figure out how to cut this down, you know, in time, or maybe take this as example as a learning experience that like, yeah, you're not making even minimum wage at this point, but you are getting better at it. So you will get faster. And for me personally, like every time I've gone into a new kind of arena from like logo design to animation, you know, it's like what I do is I take the time to just make a personal project. So I animate my own music video for my own music, right? And it's a 4-minute video. And I'm like, it took me 100 hours. Okay, so now if someone comes to me and asks, what would a 4-minute animated video take? Then I'm like 100 hours times my hourly rate. And then sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. So basically I do it for myself for free first. And then I get like a baseline. But then I do kind of get faster at it and learn more processes that speed it up. But yeah, my whole life I've just made things for me or for my friends and kind of use that to calibrate what it's worth to someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus like learning on the go.
Yeah, and it's hard because you don't want to charge people to learn, you know, because that's kind of not on them. It's kind of on you.
Totally fair to them.
Yeah. So, and you want to also get the job. It's weird being freelance because like I'm a negotiator too.
Yeah.
All the time. People come to me and they're like, what's it cost? And I try and ask, what's your budget first? It's like the drawing the guns thing.
You go first.
Like, no, I said, what's it cost? No, I said, what's your budget? I'm like, well, what do you got? And the thing is they have a number and like whether or not they're willing to tell you is like.
Whether they're going to be pleasantly surprised or shocked. Or
yeah, whatever. And I want their business, so I don't want to scare them away, you know. But I'm like, well, here's one I just did. It took this much time and cost this much. And then you wait, and like, sounds good. Or, whoa, I'm in way over my head. Like, okay, it's all fair good. Enough. Like, I get it, you know. But, yeah.
So for like when you let's kind of rewind to the Bellingham Flag as an example of this. You're doing something for yourself or like in your creative, like kind of not work time, but it's still something that's like honing your skills. You had this year-long like time period before it got adopted by the city. So you kind of did it as like, hey, this would be kind of cool to redesign and see what this should look like in the future. What was that time period like when you're kind of creating this, like, and the same thing with the Washington State flag. You're like, you've done this thing, you've spent hours on this thing, and you're like, look, I like this. It has all these cool elements to it that I think represent where we live.
Right.
But then it takes time for the like petitions and people to get on board and to get momentum on like social media or whatever it is. Tell me about, like, let's start with the Bellingham Flag and like that year-long period of time where it became a reality for it. It was like I'm going to do this. They're going to do this.
There was a lot of, ups and downs with it. It was kind of a wild ride. So initially it was organized by the Downtown Bellingham Partnership. Like, they had a flag design contest, and I didn't like initiate the idea. I just kind of joined up with it. So, they went around to all the agencies and said, do you guys want to just submit designs? Like, it's not spec work. Like, we weren't getting paid. We're basically just volunteering for this kind of idea. And so I threw my idea in the ring, and having grown up here, I think most of the artists hadn't, and like back then people didn't know what the definition of Whatcom was. Like, now we all know because the flag has helped teach people that, but like nobody
Noisy
knew.
Waters?
Yeah, exactly. And like,
Taylor?
I remember my dad told me that when I was a kid, but like most people's dads didn't, and about the four towns, same thing. So I had this kind of like base knowledge of the history and the geography and the indigenous history. And then I had my graphic design skills, and I just kind of perfectly connected those two. And so I think that's why mine became kind of like the obvious front runner right away. But yeah, it was a very grassroots kind of promotional campaign, I suppose you would say. Like, we unveiled it at a night market, which was just the 10-year anniversary was just like a couple weeks ago. And we printed stickers, and it was like 200 stickers, and they sold out like that night. And then the next day, people were like, how do I get a flag? And I'm like, well, this is like, this flag is like 1 day old, and like, but it didn't matter. People like wanted it immediately. So I did a Kickstarter because I didn't want to order, 200 flags and only sell 3.
Amount of inventory.
Yeah. So we pre-sold about 200 flags, mailed those out to businesses, to people, individuals. And then people started sending me photos of them, like summiting Mount Shuckson with their flag.
Oh, cool.
Flying their flag from an Alaska fishing boat, and then people other parts of the country, because Bellingham is this like chapter in a lot of people's lives, and it's generally a positive one, like, I got to move to Oklahoma or whatever. And they're like, I miss Bellingham. And so the Bellingham flag becomes this little souvenir for them, this little like memory of good times. And so immediately it kind of spread out beyond the city. And I made like a Facebook page. I think that was all I made to share the photos, and like that kind of steamrolled. But the city government at this point was not involved at all. And at one point they said, stop. They were like,
why did they say stop?
Because they were not involved at all.
What was the flag like before?
There was no flag.
Oh, there was no flag.
There was zero flag.
Versus the state flag, we've got a big old picture of GW on there.
George.
And I don't think George really even knew where Washington State was.
I don't think Washington was a state. It definitely wasn't.
It was like a territory or
1776. Yeah, it was Oregon country or whatever. But no, there was no Bellingham flag, and there really was no. And this is why it worked. There was no visual identity for Bellingham. There was the Whatcom Museum.
Yeah.
Oftentimes in cities, like architecture or like building kind of become like Seattle, the Space Needle. Yeah. I don't know. There's plenty more examples. Kingdom's great, yeah. Or the Eiffel Tower in Paris. We default to buildings, but like buildings aren't logos, and they're like very detailed, and they don't reproduce well, and you can't turn it into a jersey, and all that kind of thing. So when the flag came in, it was almost like it had already been there, but no one had seen it yet. It was like, there's that missing piece that we've all needed this whole time, and it looks pretty good, But the city, it is a very kind of weirdly official process to design an official symbol for the city. So they were very reluctant. They were like, well, we didn't have a committee. We didn't have any say in what the symbolism was or what the colors were, blah, blah, blah. And so they initially were not excited. Some of the city council members were. Terry Borneman, Pinky Vargas. There were people that like right away were like, "Oh, this is gonna be really cool someday," you know. So I had people on my team, but I had people that were like yelling at me to stop. And
like, wait, it's not official yet from my end either.
And don't call it the Bellingham flag. You can't say that because it's not it. It's just a picture that some guy made, And so, but at the same time, it's like, well, it is a flag for Bellingham, who does not have one. Yeah. And so that's kind of how I did it, and I donated it.
Should we have a committee right now?
Yeah. Do you want to reverse engineer this and like get on? Yeah, it was tough. There was a lot of roadblocks in the way for it to get officially adopted. But the community was so excited so quickly that it was like, we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, gang. Like they've already painted a mural of it. Yeah. Like literally people were getting like tattoos of it immediately, and
that's
like
awesome.
It didn't matter. So And that was kind of hard too, because at one point they're like, well, maybe we'll adopt it, but you have to make these changes. I was like, guys, I'm not going to do that to this guy that got the tattoo.
Yeah, on his forehead. Yeah, it's there. Yeah,
it's like he would never speak to me again, and I don't know if I'm ever going to have to talk to you again, So I didn't compromise. Like there was times when I was told to compromise and I didn't. And it took, like I said, it took about a year and a half. And the last chapter was, I used 2 stars to represent the Lummi and the Nooksack, and they have their own governing bodies. They have their own councils. And so I went to the Nooksack, and they sent me a signed resolution adopting it. And then Pinky Vargas, I believe, went to a Lummi Tribal Council meeting, and they were like, yeah, it looks great. We love it. So once I had those in place, and then I dedicated it to the public domain. So that was one thing that they really wanted me to do. They didn't want me to sue them for putting it on their cars or their offices or whatever. So I wrote a letter to the city attorney just saying hey, my great grandchildren won't sue you, whatever, Yeah. And then that was
beyond that though. I don't know. I can't.
Yeah, exactly.
Great grandchildren. I don't know.
Could be, but that was the last step. And so then they adopted it April 2017, which was roughly a year and a half after I designed it.
So almost 10 years.
Next year will be the 10-year anniversary of the adoption, and then we just had the 10-year anniversary of people seeing it for the first time.
The full deck. Mm-hmm. Congratulations. That's
Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild.
That got out of hand fast, didn't it?
It escalated quickly. Yeah, I went from just being the guy in the metal band to the guy speaking at the Rotary Club and being the public figure in a completely different sense, So it was fun, and I like it.
Building Bellingham is a community production of the Bellingham Real Estate Company. We are an independent real estate firm located on Meridian Street. From our data-centric approach to a heavy investment in media and collaboration, we do real estate differently in Whatcom County. Check out Bellingham Real Estate Co reviews on Google, Zillow, and ratemyagent.com, and don't hesitate to reach out with any questions.
So what inspired you to do the same thing for the Washington State flag?
You're
like, oh, I did this before. I know what this process is like.
A little bit.
Let's go a little bigger.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of my work does that. I start at the city level and then I scale it up. Like my bandana that I touched on earlier, I designed a bandana for Bellingham that people loved. And so then I was like, well, what does a bandana for Washington State look like? And so I illustrated this map of Washington State. And then I was like, oh, crap, I think it's a board game. And then it was. And then we did a Kickstarter, and it's my most popular thing, probably beyond the flag, And so it's about finding that level and kind of balancing it out. And then okay, well, what's this one? Immediately people were when they saw the Bellingham flag online or in person or whatever, they're like, if only you could fix the Washington flag. And I was like, well, I can try, you know? And so I designed my own version. Definitely, I think I had 12 or 15 little takes on it, but I liked the version that I did, and I've kind of tweaked it and updated it over the years. But for years, it's just kind of lived on my website as a symbol. Then there was the 100th anniversary of the flag was a few years ago. So then I was like, well, people have been asking me for physical copies of this, so let's do another Kickstarter. So that's, there you go. That's kind of my default to test the waters on things. And it did well, several hundred, copies, and I was worried that they were all going to be from Bellingham and Seattle, all the people. But I've mailed them to 90 different cities in Washington. So, they're really all over the state.
Interesting.
People want a different symbol for the state. And then, the Bellingham flag was kind of on this first wave of new city flag improvement in 2015. Mm-hmm. Since then, thousands of cities in America have designed new flags. And dozens of cities in Washington State have. Even Spokane, our second biggest city, redesigned their flag.
Yeah.
And so flag improvement was already kind of in people's brains all over the state. And then last year, somebody actually put in a bill. So a state senator, put in a bill to redesign the state flag, and it just exploded social media just because it's George Washington's face.
Yeah.
And so what I've learned is that people...
Wait, there's opposition to removing his face?
Who would have known? Oh, there is. Oh, yeah.
Because
you're censoring history, you're censoring the founder.
Yeah.
It's just the classic, unfortunately, it's a right versus left, woke. What do you want your woke flag to look like? And, and then history and tradition and all this sort of thing. And
you can have both. Yeah, you don't have to have George's face on it, but you don't have, it's...
Right, yeah. Well, one of the rules of flag design is that it should be so simple that a child can draw it from memory, hence this design. Because kids want to interact with flags, and they love flags. Like I said, I talked to 50 Girl Scouts yesterday, and they were enthralled about flags. I'm a professional artist, and I cannot draw George Washington's face from memory.
I mean, you could put like a watermelon shape on his head, and that's pretty close, right?
Yeah. Could just be an
his,
oval.
His like white little wig, whatever it is.
Yeah, and it has like 7 colors in it. If you look at it, you're like, is there pink in there? Like there's like pink, yellow,
because the main is
blue,
green, then it's
gold.
yellow, then it's
screen printed and
blue.
embroidered and sewn. It's double sided because you don't want the type to be backwards.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a mess of a flag. It's an unfortunately designed design. But sometimes bad design still works, you know? That's a weird thing. So like California is pretty detailed and it has writing, but people love that flag.
Oh, with the bear?
Yeah, the bear, and it says California Republic, and it's everywhere. But the thing is that the Washington flag is not.
Yeah.
You know, like I've never seen a sticker really, or I've never seen a mural painted on a building of a Washington flag. Because if you did, you would think that you had to go pay your like state taxes there.
I was just going to say, or a parking ticket or something.
Yeah. There's symbols that are associated with the government of a place, and then there's symbols that are associated with the people of the place.
Right.
And unfortunately, you know, in Washington, it's very much feels like the government. Whereas this, you know, it began as the people, the Bellingham flag, and it is very much a symbol of the people that the government has chosen to use as well.
Right.
So yeah, that bill did not go over well because there was so much pushback. But I got to testify and just did it online, but they recorded me and put me on the news and stuff, which just went more people. I think my page on my website has 100,000 hits now of the Washington flag.
Wow.
More than anything else on my website, you know, just because it's also been there for so many years. And yeah, so I don't even know how we got on that subject.
I asked.
But yeah, who knows what will happen in the future? My flag will live there, you know, on my website, and if somebody wants a copy of it, that's great. But, you know, a lot of state flag changes begin as unofficial symbols. So Utah recently redesigned their state flag officially, but it began as there was an unofficial one that was getting popularity. Same thing with Mississippi. There was a flag called the Stetson flag that people loved for like a decade, and then when finally, in the wake of Black Lives Matter movement, they're like, maybe we should redesign this flag that has these racist symbols on it.
Yeah, good idea.
They had already been like, well, look, this lady made one that's really popular, and look how beautiful it can be. And they didn't end up using hers. In both situations, they don't usually use that like kind of beginner flag.
They have to do their iteration.
They have to
of
do
the thing.
their committee. They have to open it up to the entire state. And I get that. You know, things have processes, but there are flukes and like little pieces that have snuck in here and there, like this flag and a few other examples I could think of in America. But yeah,
you're kind of like a mad scientist a little bit, because you have these like, you have an idea that you really like, and then there's the other side of it of like, most of these ideas have been widely pretty well accepted by the consumer, the public, the people in Bellingham. How do you switch your brain from like, I'm going to just do this project, and it seems like a lot of the times when you do that, it turns into something that a lot of people like. But how do you deal with like I'm going to try this idea and I love this and I'm really attached to this thing creatively, and then it doesn't hit? Like, because there's probably plenty of failed ideas.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I know that's how my life has been too. How do you look at it where you go, I'm not going to let that, you know, kill my thunder. And I'm just going to move on to the next thing. It's something that you're more attached to versus something that like might hit a wider audience and does really well, but you're not super attached to. I guess the example would be Jason Harper, who owns Stemma, is a Cicerone, brews beer, loves beer. And as kind of a joke, he made a seltzer. And now the seltzer is 30% of his revenue, the Super Squeeze.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, fine. And then, but all of a sudden it's like a huge part of his business. Like,
that literally happened. That same story happened to me, but with a different flag.
Let's talk about it.
So Seattle went to redesign their flag, and not in an official government capacity, but through like newspapers. So first it was the Seattle Times. They're like, we have a flag. Nobody uses it. It's terrible. What's your ideas? So I sent mine, and it was an emerald and some stripes, and pretty simple and pretty like safe, I guess. And it was well received. It was published in the article and everything. And then The Stranger, which is the like arts, music, kind of funkier magazine, were like, we're going to have an actual contest. So the first one was just like, give us ideas. This one was like, we're going to have a contest. We're going to vote. We're going to pick a new one. So I sent in my emerald flag, but I had just a couple other stupid ideas in my head. And so one of them was called the orca face. And it was just like a really close-up picture of a whale's face. And then I had one called the salmon skin that was just like dots and stripes and just like weird, like very abstract, simple symbols of, I guess, marine life. And I sent those to them, and I was like, I've already sent my emerald as Brad, so I made like a fake name and a fake email. Well, the orca exploded. Like the second they saw the orca, they started publishing articles about it in The Stranger, like day one. Like, this is the greatest flag we've ever seen.
What was your alias?
Chet Clapper.
Chet Clapper.
Chet Clapper. Yeah, because my best friend's name is Clapper, and people used to call me Chet, or I used to call them Chet. I can't even remember. But Chet Clapper was my pseudonym, and they were crediting me in all these articles. And I didn't even know that it was getting super popular because I wasn't really paying attention. But then one day I Googled Chet Clapper in quote marks because I was like, did I steal somebody's real name? And then all these articles came up about the orca face. And I was like, oh, no. And so then the contest ended up happening. They got like 100 submissions. They picked a top 10. The Emerald and the Orca were both in there. You know, Brad's Emerald, Chet's Orca.
Your two like alter egos were battling each other?
Yeah, myself and my bad self or whatever. And then people were just on board, just so obsessed. But they were really obsessed with the Orca. And I didn't tell anyone to vote for it. I just said, please vote for my Emerald. But the Orca just beat everybody by a lot. And unfortunately, there was some bot voting. So both of my flags got lots of fake votes, and other flags got fake votes. And it all looked really bad when I had to come clean that I was Chet Clapper. They were like, you put in a fake name and there was fake votes. I was like, I didn't do the fake votes, guys, but
the fake
either
name,
way.
That's on me.
Yeah. I know. So I was like, fake name, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to trick you.
Hey, we're going to draw a line in the sand here.
Yeah, exactly. I will fake a name, but I will not fake a vote.
Yeah.
But anyhow, both flags got kicked out, and they went with a different winner.
I was hoping you were going to say that you had a third alias.
that I never told anyone, and who got no fake votes. But anyhow, it didn't matter that they got kicked out because it's one of the most popular pieces of design I've ever done. Like, people have gotten tattoos of that. Like, a guy emailed me last week, I'm painting a mural of the orca on my house. There's a Seattle hockey team called the Yacht Flippers that use it on their jerseys, like a beer league team.
Dude, that's so awesome.
People were making anti-ice whistles, and they're like, can we use the orca face for the anti-ice whistle? I'm like, the orca would approve of that.
Go for it.
And so it was like an accidental good piece of design that was kind of a joke, kind of like the seltzer, but you never know when you're going to, tap into something. But there are times when, I get pushed back about ideas, especially being so public, my work being more public than most when I work with the government.
Right.
Like a few years ago, I designed this symbol for city vehicles that was like stars in the waves of the flag in the middle, and then like a color palette of colors around the outside from like the LGBTQ pride flag. And I called it like the welcome wheel because I didn't really have a name for it. But they put it on all the vehicles, but it was like in the paper. Brad made this. He got paid this much.
Yeah. Like,
do you like it?
Yeah.
And so it was just fodder for people online to be like, no, I don't like it. And I hate Brad. And please stop paying him money. And so, it's weird. Like, most people don't have their like income publicized along with their work. And then when you combine those two together, it turns into this like shitstorm of clickbait and like, angry people. And
for sure.
Yeah, so you kind of have to have thick skin a little bit about it. It's like, well, you're never going to please everybody. And there are certain projects that you do that are going to be kind of designed to make people mad. Yeah. But they're also designed to make people happy. And like, I care more about the people that are being made happy by this than the dorks that are getting mad about it.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
No, it all checks out. Let's pivot over to the fact that you have all these different facets of the business. And we've talked a little bit about like the creativity, the fact that you are, you're doing something for yourself before you do something like, or a friend before you put it out there.
Usually.
But you have like so many different facets. Mm-hmm. I've got like one lane for what I do.
Professional-ish. But you have things that you probably do like outside of work that you enjoy.
Yeah, like drinking beer. Like I have a couple different facets of what type of beer I'll drink. No, I'm just kidding. I'm selling myself short a little bit. But yes. But I think the point is like as far as professionally goes, I kind of just do one thing.
Most people have a job, I would say. And then maybe a job and a side hustle. And I have like 4-ish side hustles.
Let's talk about
combined into one job.
Yeah. How do you like, is it all one part of one brain, or is it like different sections of like the creative brain, or like, because they're all different things?
Yeah, slightly, but they are all in the same field. Right. So that's the good part, is like, I'm not doing like polar opposite things. I'm not also a night janitor, like everything is under the umbrella of like creative and professional creativity. So like creativity that is paid paid for, bought and paid for, or sold, you know. But yeah, so like teaching kind of came about naturally. Like I mentioned, the head of my department was just like, hey, I'm a big fan of the flag, big fan of your animation. Do you want to come teach a couple classes a night or a couple classes a year? And I'm like, that sounds great. And I've been doing that now for 8 years. And it helps keep me kind of grounded. And as a sole proprietor, as a solo worky guy, I don't really get to interact with other people that do what I do a lot. You know, I'm usually working with the business owner, not other creatives. So being in the classroom with young creative people is awesome. It's really stimulating. And I mean, in any class I teach, there's multiple people in there that are better than me. And I'm like, you guys are really good and you're going to do a really good job. So like, that's exciting. Just being inspired by them, you know. Really the flag was kind of when I started selling merch, I guess. I'd made merch, t-shirts for bands and things like that, but I'd never made an embroidered patch. I'd never made an enamel pin. I'd never made a hat.
What's the learning curve on like all these different materials and printing and like...
I mean, there's people that will do it all for you almost, you know. There's like if you find a screen printer, you can be like, how do I order a pin? And they'll probably be able to figure it out. But a lot of the stuff I did kind of figure out on my own one at a time. Like, you know, my stickers, pretty obvious, printed in town by local printers, like Stickers for Days and Blue Collar Printing. Guys, like people that I know. And like I've had the same screen printer, Blake, from Blue Collar since, 2004 or whatever. And so I've had some relationships. But then also like there are some things that have to be made pretty much overseas. So like an embroidered patch, you just can't really have made in the United States at a reasonable rate. It would be like $10 a patch. You'd have to charge $20 for it. So I had to start ordering stuff from, overseas factories. But when that started to kind of like scale, I guess, is when I brought on my friend Kevin as my business partner for the merch side.
Yep.
So he was like, how many flags have you ordered and what are you paying? And I'm like, I think I've ordered like, I don't know, a couple hundred and they're like $20 a piece. He's like, you've ordered 7,000 and you're paying way too much money for these. I'm like, okay, Kevin, help. So that's kind of where he came in to help me with production and fulfillment and things like that. And then we just got to come up with ideas together. I mean, like some of the merch I gave you guys today were his ideas. He's like, what if we made the pump track look like the Patagonia logo? And I was like, Pump Trackagonia, let's do it.
Pump Trackagonia.
It only got one cease and desist, but I did get it in REI for a little while. That was fun. But so he comes up
That's awesome.
He comes up with good ideas too. He came up with the idea to turn the bandana into a game. So it's kind of a creative collaboration there. And we had a store for a few years. We had a storefront, which was pretty fun on Cornwall. But that was a no one to hold him, no one to fold him type situation.
Yeah.
Like, this is great, but it is not making money, and this is our only job. So we closed that, but we have an office now that we meet at a few days a week and mail patches and press hats and check on our Penny Lane booth. And I was just there counting the stickers and, it's fun stuff like that. But then, last year, Lariat Creative, which is was a sole prop. I'm now transitioning to an LLC for the first time ever because my accountant was like, yeah, dude, you need to do that.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. That was like my main job last year, and it's mostly logo design, graphic design, but a ton of animation too. Very lucky I get these kind of like subcontracts from agencies and they're like, we just agreed to animate 30 videos for Microsoft and we do not have enough people on our staff to do
Help
that.
us.
Can you do that, please? And I'm like, yep, I can do that. And so I sign like contracts for typically like a month or 2 months or whatever, and then I work for them, and then I hand them the stuff, and then I go, do I still work here? And they're like, no. Like they look at the sheet and they're like, not for a while. And I'm like, cool, maybe I'll see you next year.
Yeah.
That's kind of how that relationship works. And I mentioned Children of the Setting Sun, kind of a same deal. I came in about 2.5 years ago, maybe, as an educator initially. They were like, we've got these team of artists, and I think they're pretty keen to learn animation. Do you want to come and teach? So that's what I did. I kind of stole my Western class and just kind of did a little workshop with them for a few weeks. And it was fun, but they were getting busier and busier and busier. And so less and less people were able to come to the class every week. And they're like, he's got to edit, or like she's got to design this social media stuff. I'm like, okay, it's all good. And then by the end of it, they were like, can you just work here for a while? I'm like, yeah, totally.
Sure, yeah.
So I've worked on some documentaries for them and events, things like that. And yeah, if any of the listeners haven't looked up their work, it's one of the most inspiring organizations I've ever worked for in terms of just, they're so brave and they take risks. I mean, they're opening a museum right now. It's insane. Like,
we had a technical difficulty. We will be back to scheduled programming shortly. Do you want me to do something better than that?
Honestly, I think that.
we We have a technical difficulty. Actually, this works pretty good too. So yeah, Children of the Setting Sun, they're opening a museum. It's kind of like an experience center, an indigenous kind of history, art, culture center soon. It's going to be called the Setting Sun Circle.
Cool.
It's where the old Mineport Museum was. But yeah, they're incredibly inspiring, creative company that make documentary films. They organize experiences. So they have like a huge kind of like get together in Seattle every year called Netsimat that brings like indigenous leaders from all over the country. And yeah, it's a really inspiring story. The Daryl Hilaire is the CEO, and he was the chairman of Lummi Nation for some time. His son is the chairman now. And his, I believe his great-grandfather started a dance troupe called Children of the Setting Sun just to teach European people about indigenous culture. And so when Daryl decided to open this, what do you ever want to call it, like a media company, he named it the same name as his grandfather, because that's really what he's trying to do. It's like, let's teach the people that live here about the people that have lived here forever.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, they do an amazing job, and there's just so many inspiring people there and a lot to learn from, and really cool place.
And you were saying that they're like their mindset on what they're going to do with it, or what they have done with it, is just pretty expansive.
Yeah, they're just really good at meeting people and like getting people invested literally and financially in what they're doing. And so kind of like the sky's the limit. Yeah. I mean, they're making films, which is no easy task. They're doing animation now. They're doing a graphic novel. They're opening, again, the museum, but it's going to have like immersive video experiences. Like it's nothing that you would see anywhere besides Seattle or Vancouver. Like we're going to have it in Bellingham, like 360, like sphere type video experiences. Yeah, they just like have no fear, and they're really brave and really kind and really cool.
That's awesome. So, and where is the best place to find online any information about the organization?
I believe it's childrenofthesettingsunproductions.com. But if you just Google Children of the Setting Sun, I mean, I would go to their YouTube and you can watch some of their films for free. Some of them air on like PBS, and one is actually showing in theaters right now. But yeah, just follow them online and just see. They did an Earth Day event this last Earth Day that was really fun. Earth Day is actually in a couple weeks, so I don't know if they're doing another Earth Day event, but they will certainly be at all sorts of events in the future.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Use the Google Monster. The Google Monster will take you to
Ask
Promised
Jeeves.
Land. Ask Jeeves. Ask Jeeves.
That's a throwback.
That is. Does he still know?
I think Jeeves, yeah, he's still out there somewhere, wandering.
Now there's like
knowing
DuckDuckGo
stuff.
and like a few other things.
I don't remember that one, but I remember Jeeves. And I remember you could text people. There was a number you could text questions to, and it would text you back the answer, but it cost like 50 cents.
So it was like pretty early on AI.
It was a person.
It was just Jeeves.
It was literally you would text like, what's the population of Minneapolis? And then a person would get the text and like look it up and then text it back to you.
That's amazing.
Back before like internet was on the phone,
50 cents a pop?
I believe it was 50, 25, but I mean, if you got to settle an argument, then
yeah, seriously, like to make it happen. But how do you know it's not biased?
Or that it's even true?
Yeah.
Because there's no way to look it up. You just got to know. Go to the library.
My T9, my flip phone T9 said, yeah.
Hey everyone, it's Taylor, producer of the Building Bellingham podcast. Not only do we create a community podcast, but since 2021, we've produced our team's other community platform, Live Bellingham Now, where we highlight new local businesses, try out iconic favorites, and keep you in the know about all things happening in the city of subdued excitement. Check us out on Instagram or Facebook at Live Bellingham Now, and be sure to subscribe to our monthly newsletter.
So, okay, I want to flip over to a different concept, and it's one thing to be like, part of your business is direct to consumer, right? The other part of your business, when we talked about like the creative identity of a company, or the visual identity was the word you used. How do you communicate with somebody that has a great business, or a business that's been here for a long time? How do you go to them without going, your logo sucks and your branding sucks, but I love your business and you?
Yeah.
How do you approach that kind of business situation? How is it received? And also on the flip side, when someone comes to you and says, hey, I think we need a rebrand, how do you maintain your style while also like taking in what they want and being like, I don't think that's going to work, or that will work. You know?
It's tough. I consider myself a bit of a design chameleon. I mean, I certainly have my own style, but I understand that like a lot of the times they're going to want something specific, and I have the like technical skill to make it happen. So like if you just want a circle with an X in it, I can make that happen. I know where the circle shape is. I know where the X shape is. So sometimes you do have to remove yourself a little bit from the project, but you got to kind of know when to fight battles and things like that. And like people are hiring you a lot of the times because of your taste. Right. It sounds stupid, but it's like, dude, when I'm driving on the freeway, I am like taking my life into my hands because I have to like take a picture of a really cool logo that I saw in a semi that I'm like, I might never see that again. Yeah. Like I am the only person probably that that is doing that. And so I have like an index of images that are inspiring, and I'm constantly thinking about this. So whether or not you like what I make or not, it's like you can agree that I am thinking about it all the time, more than you probably, So there's a certain trust element there. But
and the person that approaches you is approaching you because they like it's kind of almost like a tattoo artist. Like you go to a specific tattoo artist because you're like, I saw your piece, right? Your kind of general taste and your design, your vibe, yeah. And so there are a lot of people that come to me. They're like, I'm a fan. Like, just do your thing. Yeah. But then there are a lot of people that are like, we have a very serious thing that we need your help with doing it. But we're gonna have a lot of opinions, and like that's just when it just gets more expensive. I know it's gonna take more time, and they understand that too. But the first thing that you asked me is like, how do I approach a business that doesn't have good branding and convince them to get better branding? But the truth is I rarely do that. It's usually people coming to me. Right. And so they've already established that what they're working with is not going to work any longer. So I don't have to convince them. But sometimes I do. And like actually very rarely, but like right now I know of a brand, and I don't think I can talk about it specifically, a local beer brand that is buying a local bar that's very amazing, but has very poor design. And so I cold called them and I was like, guys, please let me do something here. I was like, I got ideas. I've had ideas before the idea of this business changing hands even existed, So there are like kind of like unicorns out there for me when I'm like, oh man, I have to call. It's like, especially just iconic Bellingham stuff where I'm just like, I can do this, and I've been doing it for a while, and I want it to be better, but I also don't want it to be dramatically different because it has to maintain that soul and that grit and the grime and the years. Like we got to keep that, but just make it look intentional. It's all about intention. Like there are some organizations that are cool and they're popular and their products are good, but like their design is just like whoever's on staff types whatever font they found, and that's the menu, or that's the social media post, and I'm just like, oh, guys, come on, you were so close to using the right blue, but then you just used the first one in the swatch, like that sort of thing. Like a brand suite, they've established that, and they deviate just because they're not thinking about it. A lot of people don't know or care, and like there are, to their credit, there are businesses that can work without that, but they will always be better if they did. If they tried, it would be better objectively. That's the reason why my job exists. Like if the logo is the same every time, then people memorize it and then they know where to go and they want to go back. But if it's different every time, they get mixed signals and then they think, I'm not going to go there, or I'm not going to buy that. But if you have someone that calls you and says, hey, we have a serious thing where we need to redo this, and let's say the experience when you go into said restaurant or business is great and they've been that way for a long time. It's like a local business, the family-owned bit, whatever it is. If they're actively living the identity of the brand, but then online, like for somebody that's not a Bellingham kind of like, I've been here for a long time, I randomly walked into this place and was like blown away with how awesome it was. How do you help those people that define that if they've maybe started this business pre-digital age? Right. You know what I mean? Like, how do you help them tell their story? I've always been really curious about that. Not that I make websites, but it like drives me crazy if a business does not have a website. And it's like or it directs you to Facebook or anything. Something. Yeah, I mean, it's like, because not everybody is on Facebook, not everybody is on Instagram, not everybody is on TikTok, but like everybody knows how to use, at least remotely, like the internet. Like, and so if you just want to find out, is this place open? What are their hours? And maybe what's the menu look like, or whatever. So like my first thing would be like, please just have some kind of presence, because it will immediately increase, what's happening, and what you're doing. But
Yeah, it's tough. You don't want to. There's certain things that have like a legacy, and you don't want to taint it. And there's certain ways to kind of work with it. Like a good example would be when Christian Danielson bought the Cabin. He bought the Cabin Tavern, and it's a legacy bar. Used to be called the Stabbin' Tavern, because it had this certain like kind of like NASCAR sign on the wall and like sticky floor kind of thing. Yeah. But it had been around forever, and so he kind of like at first he really redid the inside. And at first, it was kind of like shell shock to people that were like, dude, are we on Capitol Hill all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Am I going to have to buy a $30 burger or whatever? But then he's like, no, here's your $5 burger. And you're like, okay. And then here's your $3 Rainier. And you're like, oh, okay. And so you kind of toe that line. And then like when it came to the actual visual identity, I even saw he was working to redesign it, to rebrand it. And it was like clean and modern. And then I think he's like, nope. And then he just took one step back and he's like, I think I'm just going to leave that like 70s clip art mountain and that like Yosemite Sam looking font. Just leave them where they are. And like it all kind of like evened out. And now it's like the best bar experience, I would say, in Bellingham. You could go there any night of the week and there are dozens of people there having a good time. Yeah. Like always, Yeah, it's like you don't want to shake it up. You want to maintain the history. Just know what to change. And I think a good balance there is that he does like, a featured T-shirt every year or every 6 months or something. And it's like cool artwork by local artists. And it's like, so we are expanding our visual identity and tapping local artists and stuff. But then we're leaving this kind of like dad beer kind of legacy Coors sign.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about like, maybe earlier on you're still kind of like keeping your ears open or eyes open for these like really unicorn opportunities and saying, hey.
Yeah, like let's talk. I got some ideas.
Let's at least talk.
Yeah. What do you want to do? And let me tell you why I would do it this way. And like, it's up to you if you want to hire me to do this. And, with the Den, so I branded the Den when they opened. And I had worked with Joey and Craig when I rebranded the Wild Buffalo about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They went from a jazz bar to kind of a more hip-hop, EDM, indie rock bar, so it needed to be updated. And so I've done little work for them over the years, but they were kind of just struggling with their brand, and they're just like, man, we have so many ideas, but we don't know where to start. And like, they really wanted to do it themselves, and like they knew my work was good, but it was a shoestring budget, and they're like, we can't go that far. And so I think maybe Joey or Craig was like, do you have any thoughts or any ideas? And I was like, what about this? And then they're like, oh man, yeah, you're hired.
Yeah.
They're like, we had no idea just where to jump off from. And my idea, it wasn't even the Jobin head. That came at the very end.
The Jobin head.
The dog, that's Craig's dog, is kind of the main icon. That was like literally the last thing that we did. But the first thing that I did was like, nice type in a circle. Like, what's the Cheers logo? It's just type. Yeah. I was like, so you guys, knowing, again, taste. Like knowing what fonts are good and what fonts are bad is something that not most people think about. But I was like, this is a really good script. And if I stack the type and give it a shadow, and then like that was all it took to like flip the switch for them, that they're like, oh, okay, yeah, Brad knows what he's doing. Let's just let him take care of it for a while. And they still did a lot themselves. They pick out the colors and they implemented the designs themselves. They laid out the menus themselves. But yeah, sometimes you just need that one little spark. If I had been busy that week, who knows what the logo would have ended up with, Could
have been different.
There was a lot of versions that would have been very different. Yeah. But yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of times my first idea is my best idea.
Interesting.
So I walk into a meeting with clients and I have a little notebook and I'm asking them questions about what do you want to be, who are you, what did you used to be, and how big are you, and all that kind of stuff. And they're answering questions about culture and I'm doodling, and then like a lot of the times I'm like, is this your logo?
Does that look good? Yeah.
And then they're like, well, come back in 3 weeks and we'll see. And then like a lot of the times I'll go off for 30 hours and research and ideations, different styles, but a lot of the times that first stupid little shape I drew was the one that's the final one.
But there's only one way to know, really. I mean,
yeah, you have to reverse engineer it a little bit. It's like, okay, that's the logo, but is it these 10 other ones?
Right.
It's like, no, it's probably that one.
How do you avoid going too far down that rabbit hole? Or how do you help people?
I do go down it.
I just do it,
and I crawl the way back out.
Like, help me get out of here.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, part of my job is to just think for a long time, Yeah. And that's the weird part, is that you're not on the clock when you're laying in bed and being like, man, what if it was green?
Man, I wish I had some. I wish I got paid to be in bed, because that's typically when I fell asleep on the couch, and then I'm like, okay, it's time to go to bed. And then I go lay in bed and go, these are all the things that have to happen tomorrow. This is, blah, 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 you know, just the list goes on.
I like to do that. I usually do that too. Like, what do I got going on tomorrow? Oh yeah, all this stuff. But a lot of my ideas, my best ideas are the ones that, like, when I close my eyes, like, I see them. And they're usually for my own projects. They're usually like a cartoon I want to animate or the product I want to illustrate or whatever. And then, like, they just stick in your head and then they don't go away until you do them. So
right.
A lot of the times, like recently I animated a video of a John Prine story. So he's one of my favorite singer-songwriters. He told a story about a woman misinterpreting a line of his lyrics where he said half an inch of water and she thought he said happy enchilada. And it's just this classic story of his, and I was like, man, that would make a really good cartoon. And I'm just like laying in bed thinking about it for like 6 years. And then I finally did it. Like, I did it as a demonstration in my class for helping to animate. This is how you animate a story, you know, script, storyboard, characters, blah, blah, blah. So I did it, and then it got like 1 million views. It was like the most viewed thing I've ever made immediately. And I was like, it was there for like 6 years, just every night being like, what if you draw the enchilada and the sauce is dripping off, and the girl looked like she was from the 70s, and, like, you know, just like all the stupid little jokes. And then I finally did it, and it like worked like gangbusters.
That's wild.
Yeah. And it's just, nobody asked me to do that. My brain did.
Yeah, your brain's like,
you should make this.
we're going to keep thinking about this.
It's going to be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being in Bellingham since you were 2, being this kind of like the glue, you know, with all these different, you know, businesses, organizations, symbols, all these things. What are some of your favorite things about being in Bellingham as a community? You know, like, you know, all these people, they come to you when they have a question. They, you know, come to you for design work. They come to whatever it is. What are some of the things that you love most about Bellingham?
I mean, it's great to feel needed and to feel loved, I guess. You know, like, everybody wants to feel loved. You put in enough time somewhere and you just be a good hang, then you will be loved, you know?
Yeah.
I often wonder what my life would have been like. So I was born in San Diego. My sister moved back to San Diego in high school to go to UCSD. My mom moved back to San Diego, and there was a moment where they're like, do you want to come?
Yeah.
And I was like, I have a band, I got a girlfriend, I got a car, let me stay here.
I'm kind of set.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I think I'm good in Bellingham, Washington, you know. I wonder, like, what would the San Diego flag, would I have ever been able to do that? You know, probably not, at least not at that scale. Or, like, would I have just become a surfer? Or, like, what would my life be like? But I don't know. I guess I've never imagined myself anywhere else permanently. You know, I lived in Seattle a few times, and even now my brain is like, should I move to Canada? You know, my dad's still a Canadian citizen.
Yeah.
Maybe it'd be fun to live in Canada for a while. But this is always just kind of like, it's magnetic. I mean, I think they've called it the curse for a long time. I don't know if anyone who else grew up around here. There was this thing called the curse where, like, yeah, if you grew up here, like, you ultimately always came back here.
Like, I have to get out. I've been here all my life. Then
it doesn't matter.
You boomerang right back.
You eventually come back. Yeah, that was kind of a fun theory. But in terms of what I actually love, I mean, I just love mostly the culture. You know, obviously the music has been like my big thing that from the beginning I got involved playing music, working at a music venue, and just going to shows all the time. I mean, I still go to shows all the time. And so that's kind of my main cultural touch point with the city. But it's changed a lot. And, the brewing scene has exploded. Younger people younger than me, 40, moving here all the time. It's not gotten worse. I wouldn't say it's gotten more expensive, certainly. But, like, I don't know, just like the kind of electricity around places like the waterfront and people like Paper Whale, you know, creating these experiences like Fire and Story and the Mural Festival, and even Children of the Setting Sun doing their kind of stuff. Like, that didn't exist when I was a kid.
Right.
You know, GP smelled like shit. If you came into Bellingham, it smelled like paper, terrible chemicals. You know, you come skateboarding and you just cough and you couldn't even breathe because, like, GP smelled so terrible. So when people say, like, Bellingham's gone have it's like, have you seen it over there
the air
recently?
Is clean here.
Yeah, it used to be full of acid. The acid ball used to be actual acid, and now it's just a cute sphere. So some things have gotten better, but certainly things have, you know, gotten more expensive, and some iconic businesses have closed, which is kind of a bummer. But I'm really into pinball. It's been a thing that's happened to me the last few years.
We did a whole
that's
feature.
okay. I talked to you briefly you guys were at the Racket, and I was playing. I was playing a Foo Fighters machine, and I was like, "Did you guys know that there's Bellingham on this game?" Because you guys were filming.
I remember this.
That's a time that I talked to you guys for like 1 second, and I knew who you were, but I didn't. Again, I wasn't like, "I'm the flag guy. Listen up." So I don't like to do that. Pinball has become a big part of my life. I'm in a pinball club. I own a couple pinball machines. I've finally started putting them into businesses publicly. It's just the thing it's the thing that I like to do in between. Like, I don't have to be there for an hour.
I'm gonna
go play pinball here, go play pinball there. And we actually have one of the highest per capita's pinball to people ratio, I've learned.
Interesting.
Because we only have a population of 90,000, but we have like X amount of machines now that like the person to pinball machine ratio is higher here than it is in Seattle and Portland.
That seems to make sense. I mean, I've noticed many pinball machines.
Have you been to Doug's lately?
I have not been there in a little while, but they all went.
It's just a stone's throw from here. That's where there's like 8 in there
Good
now.
burgers too, and they have a sandwich shop now.
Yeah,
too?
I haven't been to the sandwich shop, but I've gone to the bar. And like there used to be like you would see a pinball machine in a place, and now you see like 10. Like 20th Century Bowling has like 10 now. Obviously the Racket.
One's not enough.
Ruckus Room. In Ferndale, there's a place called Aim and Game that has like, I think the most anywhere in Whatcom County. They got like 20.
Wow.
But I just love it. I never even really got into video games. I mean, I played video games when I was younger, but as an adult, I just like, I don't know, my brain just can't really control it.
It's turned into a sport.
Yeah, it is professional now. It's very serious. But pinball is just so tactile, and like I know people that are bad at it hate it, and I get that. I don't like basketball because I'm bad at it, but like I'm good at pinball, and you get better, and I can never stop thinking about it all the time.
Asking for a friend, but what's the? I mean, I'm not good at pinball, but I enjoy it still.
That's great.
What does it take to go from, an entry level to great at pinball? What's the strategy of growth? Is there practice?
Yeah, your eyeballs eventually kind of get used to the angles that the ball travels, right? And so
like when you're getting the paddle ready.
When the ball is coming here, if the worst thing in the world you can do on a pinball machine is just hit both flippers. My friend was like, "That's the way to do it, right?" I'm like, "That is the opposite of the way to do it. That's the one thing you cannot do." Because when you do that, you open up the play, you double the size of the room for the ball to go down. So if the ball's going here, and you're like, okay, I think if I hit this flipper up, it'll bounce right off the tip of it, and I can catch it into here. That's the kind of thing that your eyeballs eventually just memorize how to. It's all about catching the ball, slowing it down, and then aiming for where you want to go.
Getting reset.
Sometimes it's just chaos ball, though. I mean, multi-ball, you're just like, whee!
Yeah,
and they're just...
We had a couple of those too.
They're flying all over the place, and you can still win that way. That's the beauty of the game, I always hated pool because if you get a scratch, you're like, it doesn't count. And I'm like, I wasn't trying to do it, but I still did it.
Yeah.
That's with pinball. It's like, I accidentally hit it into the like super jackpot, so I still get the super jackpot. Even though
a little bit of chaos, a little bit of randomness, and then some strategy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and you can get really good. I mean, there's world champions that are obviously really good because they've just memorized. And the more you play one game, the more you understand where all the big points are too.
Yep.
So you kind of get really used to one game.
I think we cycled many times, and so I was like, I want to try. It was just the spice of life. I was like, I want to try the Jurassic Park one. I want to go over to this one, and I don't think I'd spent enough. I think if I'd spent like
you got to find one, and then you kind of get in the
each
zone on that one. Yeah, and then that's the one that's like your game. And then if anybody once you get a high score on the board, then it's really your game, because then if somebody else kicks you off, you're like, I got to get that back.
I need to meet this person. You're like, who is this person?
No, I need to destroy them.
Yeah,
they need to die.
Yeah.
I need to be, my initials need to be up there, not theirs.
I think the only high score that I have out there is the basketball machine at Round Table. Is it Round Table? Yeah, the Round Table at Sunset.
They have a basketball machine there?
They have one of the little
fast break?
It's the one that goes.
Oh, you're talking about like actual
just regular one, and then
Gotcha.
It goes back and forth, and then it. But I set the high score there for a little while, and then
sick.
I came back and it was gone, and they said, "Oh, that was just the high score of the week. We reset it every week." And I was like, "Dude, come on, let me have that."
That's actually where my pinball journey began. So I worked at Round Table the last few years of college. I wasn't a smoker, and the smokers got like 3 breaks a shift, and if you didn't smoke, you got 1. And I was like, that doesn't work for me. So I would take like ball cig breaks, and I would just go play the Shrek pinball machine that they had every day. And I was like getting better and better and better. And then some guy walked by and he's like, that's a really high score. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you should look it up. And then I looked it up, and it was the highest score in the world at the time on
For the Shrek?
on the Shrek pinball.
Wow.
It was quickly defeated, though. You know, I logged it on the website, and then some guy beat it. But I was like, oh man, maybe I'm actually pretty good at this thing. So
Going pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all because I didn't smoke.
Yeah.
You never know what can happen.
Stay off drugs.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do drugs, do pinball.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know that we here at Bellingham Real Estate Company and Building Bellingham, Live Bellingham, like we love what we do, what you do,
Thank
and
you.
what you've done, and anything we can continue to do to collaborate with you and what you're doing. And
That'd be awesome.
That's what this is here for. And so I'd
Sweet.
super appreciate you telling your story, because it is one of my favorite things about this show is that it is, you can meet someone that grew a business a conventional way, and that's great. You can meet someone who grew a business, somewhere in the middle, had some ups and downs, and you can meet someone who's done it completely unconventionally. And I feel like that's what you've done in a really cool way, and that's what I've done. And it's so cool to meet other people who've done it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I never set out to be a business owner. I never considered myself even an entrepreneur. I was just like, this is just what I'm good at. It makes more sense to do it for me, right? Okay, then I'll do it for me, but not forever. Oh, wow, it's been 10 years. I have to switch to LLC because I'm actually finally making enough money. Like, wow, that's great. You know, sometimes I feel like you kind of have to, sometimes when people set out to make a successful business, it can work. But sometimes when you just have to set out to just like follow the things that you like,
Yes.
it can also work. It might take longer, the long road, to fall into place, but you just get better at what you do, and people trust you. And you trust yourself. I mean, that's huge too, But yeah, that's how I got there. I'm glad that's how people like you got there. You know?
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Bonking your way. I feel like I've been bonking my way through it. But and by the way, no one has died in the season finale. There's no cliffhanger.
Should I murder this hamster?
Yeah. Wait. No. God.
You ever heard of the sloth, dude?
Yeah.
Hamster's over.
But thanks for joining us. Season
Thank you,
finale.
Will. Yeah, it's a good time.
Building Bellingham is a community podcast produced by the Bellingham Real Estate Company. Our producer and audio editor is Taylor Beal, and videography is by Cooper Hansley.